Given two strings, write a method to decide if one is a permutation of the other. So we have two strings as our input, and this function would return a boolean as our output. So let's write down some examples. Lap and pal should return true. What else? Though and thuohg should return also true, and cap and cat should return false. So these are our inputs and these are our outputs. Now let's think about how we can achieve this. Can we use hash maps? So if two strings are permutations of each other, that means that there would be an even number of each letter in our hash map. So let's see. We have our hash map, which is of length, which has the length of our words of one of our inputs. And then we map each character to a bucket in our hash map. So this would give us even number of each character, and if it is even, we will want to return true. We are trying to avoid using linked lists, so we can't use nodes. But if we go with this example, now if we generate the hash map for this, it would have 4 P's and 4 A's, which it will also return true, and it's a false positive, so we can't follow this algorithm. We can't use this algorithm. So what else can we do? So we can just basically see if each letter is if there are the same number of letters in each word, in each string. So if there are the same number of each letter in each string, then we can return true. So this works. And we don't want to use linked lists in our buckets. So we have to figure out a way to only use keys and values for this. So back to our code editor, we will comment out the calls for the function from the previous challenge. I'm going to make this bigger. So we will return a boolean, and we will take string 1 and string 2 as our inputs. Now we will check to see whether both strings actually have the same length and exit early with a false return if they aren't the same length. Now let me pseudocode the rest. So we will only continue to process the rest of the code if the lengths are equal, and we first want to create a hash map for each word. Then we want to loop through each string and add all of its chars to the hash map, then count and compare the total number of each character with the other one, and then return false if there's a mismatch. Otherwise, if all checks pass, return true. So here we're creating our hash map for string 1, and here's our hash map for string 2. Now at this point it doesn't matter the length of which string we use. We can basically use the length of any of them that we want. And here's our loop. So we are trying to get the value of the first character. get the int value of the first character. So at this point I was confused, and so this doesn't return an integer, which we expect. So there was a type issue at this point I was trying to fix. I continued with the other hash map, with inserting into other hash map to see whether that could fix the problem. I also noticed that I forgot to pass in the second argument of this method, and I was able to solve the issue by just calling the value of method on the integer object instance instead of using the string itself, using the hash map itself. Now I'm trying to see what is included in the hash map that I just called char count. So I'm returning early because the lengths weren't equal, which is good, I guess. Now this is the hash map. Now I didn't want to use linked lists because that is for the next section. So I'm trying to see now whether there is any built-in method to store multiple values with the same key into a hash map. And it seems like there isn't any built-in way to add the same value several times to a hash map. So now I'm thinking, maybe I can switch keys and values. Maybe I can use character as keys. Use each character as key and count the number of occurrences of each character in its value. So I'm doing that. For the first insertion, I want the count to be 1, and then if in each iteration we recognize that there is a key for a character, we would want to increment the count, the value of that key. So I'm looking through all the methods that are available, but I don't see anything useful. I thought maybe I can use replace with a variable, but I wasn't able to do so. So now I'm taking another look into the methods. Seems like get returns us an integer, and that integer is the value. So it is integer in this case. Now it works as I expected, but I can't increment that. So what else can I do? So at this point I was stuck, but I knew that I was on the right track. So I did another Google search, and I stumbled upon this article, this Stack Overflow, and I saw this answer. So there is apparently a method called get or default. So that would also take care of my if statement. So I didn't need that anymore. So we will initialize each key at 0, the value for each key at 0, and then we will increment that always. So we will either read the value of each key or increment it. Like we will either get the value or set the value to 0, and then we will always increment the value. So for the initial run it would return 1. So it will default to 0 and then increment by 1, which gives us 1 as a result. Now I'm trying to create a loop to check for each key in both char counts, and to see whether the value of each key is equal to the respective one in the other. But I just figured out that that doesn't work because like both strings don't have the same character at each index. So that is possible that this won't work. So I'm now trying to see whether there is a built-in method to compare the hash maps, and there seems to be equals. So I'm using that. Now I was using that inside a loop which gave me false results. So I removed the loop and it seems to be working fine. So I'm updating the comment and I'm testing it one more time, and voila, it works.